Welcome back. Outside Minds podcast. Because you've already seen too much, bro.
They only added it so it could be like a ritual.
They're saying there's these, the end of times, right? There's all these signs.
Do you think we would know? Like, do you think the general public would know if Jesus came back?
Take a picture for $5.
You have a purpose in life, and if you don't fulfill it, you will come back until you fulfill it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I am your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
Dot 420.
And coming back for the second time, another special guest. We got Dr. Matt from Psychosmos University. He is I'll just swing it on over to him so he can tell you a little bit about himself and where you guys can find him. Let's go.
Thank you so much, bros, for giving me the brief, quick shout out. So I am Dr. Matt, and essentially what I do is I study a lot of what I study is esoteric information, a lot of scripture, mythological storytelling, and adapting that to the human psyche and psychology. So, first and foremost, I kind of look at everything from a psychological perspective, and then I dive deep from there, because a lot of what we worship in faith and stuff can be tied back to us in a lot of symbolic ways. So the psychology is really what I focus on. But in my methodology, I guess you could say, in my practice, I have worked with a lot of people in my coaching field, and many of these people have gone on to become big influencers or deepen their faith or change their lives. I developed a methodology with obtaining my PhD that essentially took a 50-person case study, applied a lot of different esoteric and also, I would say, very scriptural practices and thought processes and beliefs into their lives from a deeply psychological perspective, as well as like the metaphorical perspectives. And it had amazing results. So that's kind of my whole field. I study inner alchemy, and I'm very big on the concepts of things like sacred secretion, or what other people call Kundalini rising, consciousness expansion, just in general. So I'm 32 years old. I've been doing this with people for, I want to say, not officially, of course, but it's been pretty much my whole life. I mean, starting with even members of my family, my parents in particular. So,
nice.
There's a whole tragic backstory, just like anybody else has. Most of what I focus on today has to deal with making the spiritual practical. So that's ultimately what I'm here to discuss today.
Good. Yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned and highlighted the psychology thing, because when I was going through my spiritual awakening, I read the Kybalion, and in short, that's kind of like a book about the 7 universal laws, one of them being the principle of mentalism, which we're a big proponent of on this show, because we know, through psychedelics, through research, through conspiracy theories and everything, that reality as we experience it is emanated through the mental. You know what I mean? And what Dr. Matt from Psychosmos University is into, what he explained, is inner alchemy. So I think I kind of had like a natural inclination to be interested towards these things when I was young too, because it's like the mysteries. It's the mysteries of life. Like, what are those tarot cards over there? Like, what's that secret society, Freemasonry? Like, what is this? How do people have telekinesis? How can they, use divination? Like, what are these secret codes in the Bible? So if you're into those kind of weird little topics, like, that's what inner alchemy is. So I'm glad to have you on here. Like I said in the pre-interview, we can nerd out and stuff like that, but I kind of want to basically go over like the small, like kind of like mind-blowing stuff that you see on like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, such as like the syncretism that like kind of Santos Bonacci and those kind of people get into, so that we can get an idea of what inner alchemy actually is. So I just wanted to ask you, can you go over like, the numerology of 7 and all the things that are associated with that, and even the numerology of 12, you know what I mean? Like 7 chakras, 7 archangels, 7 archons, 7 energy centers in our body, 7 gates that we have to get past through in the Gnostic scriptures and stuff like that. And then like the 12 constellations as well, the 12 disciples and stuff like that. So can you kind of go into some of that stuff off the top of your head and kind of let people know that this reality that we experience and all these kind of mysteries and stuff are kind of connected to each other in a way. You know what I mean? So can you kind of just introduce our reader or our listeners into inner alchemy and stuff like that, and how it connects to like even like major religions and stuff like that? You know what I mean?
Yes. So it's a lot of really great call outs there because that's actually the whole point of my thesis, my dissertation is how do we properly utilize this? So I love what you had said because I feel as though there's a lot of misconceptions that are coming in different regards. And you brought up a personal definitely somebody who was an influential figure for me was Santos Bonacci. So you name dropped him, which is a great call out. I learned a lot by watching a lot of Bonacci's videos, like very much pre-COVID. Okay. But I also really enjoyed Bill Donahue as well. There were many figures that had come and gone as I had kind of hopscotched around, was reading a lot of the Bible, was reading the Kabbalion, was reading, one of my personal favorites is The Light of Egypt by Thomas Burgoyne. That's a very tough read. It's a very deep alchemical read. It's a very deep esoteric read, I should say. So first and foremost, let's discuss some things. Inner alchemy, from its very basic stance, is a methodology of healing. All right. So it's not just about kind of awakening into those higher fields. I would say that a lot of those things, like people who do the CIA stuff, the telekinesis and all that, those are very offshoot cases, right? Like there are a lot, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of technology and machinery, actually, as we come to find out. And you could go all the way back to something like the esoteric, the more esoteric secret societies that kind of were responsible for parts of Germany, like, the occult, Vril Society, Thule Society, all those, they were really experimenting and dabbling with a lot of those esoteric principles. It even goes way before that. Aleister Crowley, Alice Bailey, all these people. And ultimately, I think what we've had, and I'm speaking just truthfully from the heart, I think what we've had is a lot of people wishing more things that are actually plausible. Because when you talk about the abilities that people can tap into, again, there's a lot of money and time and attention that goes into these things that are written on paper, declassified documents, CIA stuff. But if you're talking about the layman's inner alchemy, that I don't teach people on how to have special powers. Now you can use this thing for like deepening your faith. You can use this thing for manifestation in some regard because of course you're bettering your life. But the true secret, my friends, of inner alchemy is actually ultimately having every single aspect, archetype, and attribute of your life in full balance to the point where you find inner peace, which awakens and activates higher states of consciousness. It's really not as like woo-woo mystical, I think.
Let me stop you right there real quick.
Yeah.
Because I like to draw a parallel to like Buddhism and Hinduism with that.
Sure.
It's just like when you do that, when you reach this state of balance, that's where you're absolved of all karma and you are not attached to anything in the material realm. And am I getting that right?
That's a big part of it, but of course you have to live within the material world.
Okay,
it's actually part of, and I like that you brought up 7, by the way, because 7 is actually part of the metric system that I kind of utilize in order to help people find that. Because really what we're talking about here, if you want to get into the science, the quantum science, the biological science, the body is, as you guys know, basically a giant, if you want to think of it, a giant supercomputer to some degree. And the main activator of that would be the brain and the nervous system, the central nervous system, which runs all throughout the body. Okay. The manipulation of the nervous system is ultimately what we're talking about. That's ultimately where you're talking about anybody that might have special gifts, or might be able to have visions or see things, prophetic peoples, et cetera, because it's a light-based system. Quantum physics shows us that everything basically communicates in forms of light, frequency, sound, vibration, things within that nature, right? And of course, I'm oversimplifying a lot of this, but that's because it's much more easily digestible if I speak in generic terms rather than if I'm harping in on super, right? So ultimately speaking, what we're talking about for the common layman, because not everybody, is necessarily what I would say has the desire to perform gifts. A lot of people just want to live a good life.
Right.
So from that deeply psychological perspective, what we're looking at is looking at archetypes across the spread. Now, yes, you brought up 7, which is phenomenal. 7 chakras, they're really super rooted within the body. The root chakra, for example, is the plexus of bundles of nerves that's in the coccygeal sacrum of the base of the spine. Above that would be the sacral chakra, which is the genitals. We all know that that's basically just a bunch of nerves, whether it's male or female. Then above that, solar plexus. That'd be like the celiac ganglion, which is attached to the spinal column. You have the heart. That one's easy. Then you have the thymus, thyroid glands within the throat as the throat chakra. Then you have the brain, which ultimately acts as, it's two parts. That is the brain, right?
Yeah.
You have the higher mind, lower mind, however you want to see it, the inner thalamus chamber. These are all nerve networks. Nerve comes from the Latin neuro, which means string, which is also where we have coined string theory, because energy is all interconnected, woven into this matrix that we are all connected to in this field. And our body, through the nervous system, is able to integrate with that field. Now, a lot of you guys and a lot of you guys watching know this already, but there's a lot of depth that goes into this inner alchemical process, because the inner alchemy process is seen within all things. It's seen within the cells of your body when they're first generating. They all follow a what you would call the hero's journey, right? It's a subset of systems that is designed cyclically in order for you to expand consciousness and awaken into higher frequency, consciousness, vibrational reality, whatever you so choose. And only through getting somebody to that state do people ultimately find their gifts, I guess you could say. So, but there's no forcing it. If you force it, it ultimately harms the entire process. And this is why you have, so many people who are going through these spiritual awakenings, but there's also a lot of issues that are kind of coming about it, because so many people are making prophecies, so many people are having visions. Some of them are right, some of them are wrong. And then the whole entire, I guess what you would call the new age movement of some sorts kind of gets labeled as woo-woo or crackpot or whatever. But ultimately, my whole point is, because I want to pass it back to you guys so you guys can keep asking questions. I don't want to derail. Sometimes I ramble, so I apologize about that. But the whole point of this is, through the balance of all faculties, our attributes and archetypes of what it means to be a person, that is how you fully relax the body and get it into a state of rest and digest with the nervous system, right? Like parasympathetic versus sympathetic, right? It's rest and digest versus fight or flight. If you're in fight or flight, it doesn't matter if you're extremely gifted. It's impossible to live the way that you truly want to live. And you could call them the elites, the Epsteins of the world, whatever. They know this. That's why all within the files, they're talking about quantum manipulation of many different forms to attack us. And the Epstein files proved way more than that. But ultimately, my point here is that we as a group of people who are trying to spiritually enlighten ourselves have to really be careful with the way that we live our lives, right? Because there's some people who, they're like, oh, I want to heighten my spirituality, and then they might get addicted to some kind of a substance. And I've had to help a lot of people kind of readjust with the balance, and it's really just about balancing all those faculties. So last point, 7 things I have. I use the chakra model in my practice. So we talk about the physical form. That's the root chakra, starting from the base going up. Physical form. Are you exercising? Or do you have health problems? What's the state of your physical body? Where are we with our overall physical health? The desire form. What are your goals, your dreams? Is there sexual lust? Are there issues surrounding that? Because that's the sacral chakra. Yep. One up from there would be the solar plexus. This is your will, your willpower, your inner resolve, your soul connection, your purpose, your inner strength. How are we sitting in that? Are you motivated to go and do the work every single day? Do you have a healthy diet? Are you eating properly? Those things. The heart, love. The heart's pretty easy. I think we all probably have drilled that one. Every Disney movie under the sun has drilled all those points, right? The throat chakra. Are you speaking your truth? Are you open to other people? Do you allow other people into your life? Do you set proper boundaries with other people? How do you operate within that model? And then the 2 ones within the brain would be the pineal and the pituitary, essentially, but it's also the crown at the same time, which is partially the claustrum. The top of the head acts essentially like a satellite almost for that energy, that cosmic space radiation, electromagnetic frequency, whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of aspects of what it means to be a fully balanced person. The third eye chakra is all about your relation with spirit and as well as your mentality, and then the crown chakra would be like your energetic form overall, your aura, your overall energy. How much are you able to accomplish? What's your overall soul's mission and purpose? What are you putting out into the world? So there's layers to this, and again, like I've said, I've extrapolated, I've studied, and I've taken and broken apart a bunch of psychological models that already work, and then I've applied them alongside of esoteric principles, and it's so funny the way that they match up, guys. So ultimately, what I'm saying here is that the ultimate truth, and I'm sorry for rambling, I'm going to pass it back to you, is the ultimate truth when it comes to inner alchemy is first one must find and attain the balance. It's a healing spiritual practice. That is when you fully heal, which of course nobody really fully heals, but you fully heal to a point where it's stable enough to be maintained. Then you start to awaken into who you truly are through the embellishment of the soul and the purification of turning the darkness into the light, which is the whole point of alchemy. It's the lead into the gold, but of course that's just the physical metaphor, right?
Right.
You're turning darkness into light. Through that, that is how you awaken into your highest self. And through that, that is how we fix the resolving problems of the world.
Nice, nice. So let's slow it down real quick. And I want to kind of regurgitate that in a way and kind of summarize it in a few sentences if I can. So I want to start by saying an axiom from Hermeticism that's understood in a few different ways: as above, so below, or as within, so without. Right. So basically, to the person listening who's kind of just like, who is this Dr. Matt? What is Psychosmos University? What is this inner alchemy? He's basically saying it's kind of like a self-healing journey. You know what I mean? It's all about transmutation. It's all about taking yourself from one mental state to another mental state. And in order to do that, you have to have balance. And I just want to just stop and say real quick, that's why I love Kabbalah so much, because when you study the Tree of Life and you know about the Tree of Life, you realize that in order for that structure to be held up like a tree, it has to have a good balance, a good foundation.
There's a solid balance from top to bottom. There's different levels.
Yeah, and to simplify a little bit further too, using more Kabbalah, they have what's known as the four worlds. You have the physical world, the mental world, the emotional world, and the action world, or what I like to refer to as the spirit world. And in order for all of these to be in harmony, like Dr. Matt said, they have to be in balance. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that point real quick and kind of put it more in simplistic terms for those people that are kind of just trying a little bit more to follow along, that are kind of like new to alchemy and stuff like that. So let's swing it back on over to like the elites and stuff like that, because not too long ago, I think it was like in 2012, I wanted to bring this up. There was a book and movie released that was The Secret. And this is kind of like dipping your toes into inner alchemy and stuff like that, because it's all about like manifestation, getting what you want in life, change your attitude about things. And when you get into what I'm assuming what you do over that at Psychosmos University is basically, like you said, you help people transmute. You use the 7-point system that's very similar to the chakra system. You go through each chakra point and making sure they're balanced. So can you tell us a little bit about how the elites are ahead of us because they've had this knowledge for so long, and how that ties into how this knowledge and this information, these concepts and these philosophies were passed through secret societies in order to uplift a part of society over people who they refer to as swine. You can't cast pearls before swine is what they would say. I mean, you can't give this information to people who won't understand it. And it kind of turned into, I would say, a classism kind of thing, because we have, like I said, the elites. You have like groups like Freemasonry and things like that people demonize because they don't understand it. And also because they have knowledge like this, they're able to manipulate reality to them for themselves in a way that's less preferable for us. So I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about secret societies and how alchemy and stuff like that works in those, and how if we learn these things ourselves, we can get a step up from where we're at now.
Okay, that is a phenomenal question. And I have a lot of information to share on this. So the first thing I'll say is I love my life. The second thing I'll say is the second thing I'll say is I will share with you things that nobody else is talking about right now. Okay. Yeah. Because these are things that after many, many, many years of research, which again, this is not like, it has nothing to do with me. I'll just share the information. Okay. So, long story short, I think at this stage, and I'm just going to speak openly. Okay. At this stage, from what we've seen from the Epstein files, I'm going to start there because I think that's the easiest entryway in. There is a ideology of these people. A lot of people are saying Sabbatean Frankism. A lot of people are saying Shabbat Ludovich, okay, which are all relatively accurate to a good degree, but there's more moving parts than just that. But Though that's essentially the similar iconography. There's some stuff going on.
I want to
between the
stop you real
Abrahamic.
quick before you go on.
Yeah, yeah.
So this
Yes.
is what basically people who are kind of like not in the know and aren't into esotericism and stuff like that, a blanket
Gotcha.
term for that kind of stuff for them, I would assume would be what they refer to as Satanism. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we could. I think a better term would be something more akin to like dark magic, but you could call it Satanism if
Okay.
you wanted to label it quite simply. Yeah, we
Because
could
like me and
easily
you
call-
understand there's a lot more nuance to
Yes,
what we consider
yes.
Satanism, what other people
Yes.
consider Satanism, and there's even sects within Satanism that don't even
there
agree
is
with
an extreme. There is an extreme amount of nuance to
Yeah,
this. So again,
absolutely.
this isn't like we can just blame one group of people.
yeah.
This is a very multifaceted, very historically backed approach. And of course, I'm not here to mince all that. The whole point is there is something going on with the Abrahamic religions. I think everybody could probably agree from that standpoint. The Abrahamic religions right now are going through I guess the best word might be evolution to some degree, because they are all making moves. And this is exactly why the United States, Israel, and Iran are all in a scuffle with each other right now. Ultimately, what we've learned from these elites is that they have a different ideology from the rest of us. They have a different secret club, and they do different secret things. Here's some of the things, though, to kind of keep it more on the nose. What these people are doing is they're feeding into negative energy, okay,
Yes.
because the negative energy brings them power, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
And again, lots of nuance, lots of details.
Yes.
If we're just keeping it generic so that we can kind of name it and say it, there's a darker force at work. Okay, it's not just one group of people. There's plenty of other people that are part of this. Now, I have been involved where I have seen this stuff firsthand. So I know what a lot of this Frankism and things like that look like firsthand. All right, because I've studied with a lot of different people all around the world, and I've traveled, it's been that was definitely one of the most interesting. But again, that's one of the many things that they manipulate and utilize. Like the Epstein files, dropping that was definitely to feed into the egregoric negative energy, the conceptual negative energy from the masses, right? They drop the files, everybody starts reading them, and we all start getting very disturbed, obviously, by them. And they use that and they manipulate that energy in many different means. And I think a lot of us understand that at this point. Here's some of the things that a lot of people are not connecting the dots on, though. Inner alchemy as an example, okay, because I'm going to tie a lot of this back to inner alchemy, too.
Okay.
Inner alchemy as an example, if you study Nadon, like the Tao, okay, we're talking Eastern alchemy. The entire thing is the cultivation of the inner child. Okay, there's an inner child that you are cultivating, and if you don't squander the essence, then you prolong your life. It's essentially a recyclable process, and within women specifically, just as a simple example, their inner alchemical cycles are actually tied to their menstrual cycle. And there's a lot of misconception. People think it's the moon and the sun sign and all that stuff, but that's for the men, and we could get into the specifics of that at a later time. But as a perfect example, the menstrual cycle is like partially a recyclable cycle, okay, within the woman, all right? And men have this too, okay? This entire process is about prolonging life and healing from within, okay? That process is purely tied in a darker sense, in a literal sense, from what Epstein does to kids. Okay, so think Kronos eating Saturn, right? There is a force that exists. There's almost a natural law of nature, and it's very biblical as well. You can read it in the Bible: sons and fathers and grandfathers, and a perpetual cycle of battling over inheritances, land, philosophies, things like that. Kronos eating Zeus, Kronos eating the children, right?
It goes back to like
So
the Titans and the gods and all that kind of stuff. And
right, there's an aspect of our bodies. So take autophagy, for example, where you fast and your body eats itself. Okay, there's processes that our bodies undergo where the main whole, the parent, consumes parts of the byproduct, okay, which can be anything. You can fast and you can eat cancer cells. We've already proven that I believe there was a Japanese doctor or something that proved that recently, right? Like it's proven, like autophagy
so let
works.
me stop you real quick.
About.
So what you've been saying for the last few minutes is that when you started talking about the Eastern tradition of alchemy, I forgot which one you mentioned, but Nadon. So this is all about cultivating your inner child in order to transmute and complete the alchemical process, correct? And
That's a big part of it, and that also ties with why they call it like the inner Christ or the Christ seed in the West.
Okay.
A lot of Western alchemy include Christ in that because that is the inner child.
Okay.
In terms of
it's like your
God's,
spirit before
like,
it's
inner
corrupted
universe.
by the material realm, basically.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, Christ is the child figure in the Trinity, right?
Oh, that makes sense.
That
That
makes
makes sense.
right?
Okay.
So that's why it's about the cultivation of the inner child. But again, so that's the inner child versus the outer child. Do you see how and this is my whole point with dark versus light and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Epstein crowd, okay, they do bad things in the outside world to kids because they've perverted the truth, which is to cultivate the happiness of the inside, the inner world, the inner child. And what they've done is they've basically trained us in a very Pavlovian way to look externally for everything. Right. So what I teach is to get back to center, you have to turn inward. Like I love conspiracies. Okay. Like, you know, that doesn't mean like I believe every single mainstream one, but I love certain conspiracies. A lot of them ended up becoming true. And I also I think aliens are really cool, but there are a lot of people who put all their life and attention into like looking for things that are so outside of them without looking inward first. And that is, I think, one of the bigger psyops and control mechanisms. Take, for example, Project Bluebeam. You guys know what Project Bluebeam is, of course. That's the CIA, you know, thing where they basically want to use mass holograms. And then there's also the 2030 agenda. So my fear is that if we externalize too many things without going inward first, finding the inner balance, if we, you know, through Maharishi effect, which is that scientific principle that if a small group of a tribe elevates their frequency, the whole tribe's frequency rises. That should be, as the spiritual community, that has to be prioritized as our number one goal, is ourselves. If we don't have all of the balance within our own selves, which we have to be honest and say, a lot of us are healing, and some of us are healing, and some of us go to some dark places. I mean, I've seen it.
Let me ask you something before you get too far from what I'm thinking. So what I've kind of noticed myself, black magic versus white magic, and you're saying a lot of like external versus internal. What I've been seeing is like we even had like a demonologist on recently, someone who practices Solomonic magic, and I see on his Instagram he does like rituals, candles, and things of the like and stuff like that. And I kind of liken that to dark magic because it kind of feels like what you would refer to as probably external alchemy, which is as opposed to internal alchemy. So my question to you is would you consider black magic to be basically using the spiritual world to change the physical world through external means, as opposed to white magic, which is inner alchemy, which is going to be the internal transmutation? Am I correct there? Is that kind of like a good way to kind of distinguish the two between dark magic and white magic?
If you're defining it in human terms, I would say that's pretty good.
Okay.
But if you're defining it from a more like divine standpoint, I would say the intention is everything. So take, for example, if
that makes sense.
If I use my physical Merkaba, if I use my physical body to go work a job so I can pay for my college tuition, like many single parents are doing in this country, that's a form of magic, and to some degree, you know, where you are utilizing your energy.
Okay, so it's a little bit more about intention.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what that dude does.
Yeah, intention is the big secret whenever you're talking about anything. You first and foremost, you know, and this is just me speaking from experience. Black magic is definitely very fickle, and it's not something that I like really involve myself in. I'm more of the purveyor of simplicity, and unity is key. You know, like the more simple that you can create something, it's extremely, even if it's very, very complicated, the simpler that you can explain it into key terms.
Keep it simple, stupid.
And everybody wants a simple life. So the only reason people do things like for sex, money, and drugs and all that stuff is because really people want a simple life. They want a good life. And ultimately, you kind of have to come to a crossroads and ask, is black magic a way to do it? Is this a way to do it? And ultimately, you can do it through very, very simple means. It's the archetype of the fool. You know, I mean, and if you want to get into like the alchemical transmutational effect, the fool versus the world. I mean, that's really what it is. You know, because it's the start to the finish. And then there's a lot of stuff in the middle, sure. And of course, you need those hopscotch stepping stones, but at the very least, you got to go back to being the fool.
So let me ask you.
That's what all the masters do.
Sorry to cut you off. Let me ask you something real quick that kind of just connected to the question I had before. So you kind of mentioned like inner alchemy and the whole inner child thing and their Eastern alchemical. I think you called it Nadon was the branch of alchemy that
Nadon,
practices.
that's right.
So you kind of started to talk about Epstein and the elites a little bit. And it kind of sounded like you were going to start talking about how they're physically eating babies, because that's been a conspiracy that's been coming out, the whole beef jerky thing. And then also we have the adrenochrome thing. We have the adrenochrome angle where they're, purposely ingesting baby blood, quote unquote, to in order for hallucinogenic effects as well as to stay young. It's like some sort of fountain of youth or something like that. So is that what you're alluding to, or is that anything that you can speak towards, or anything that you've been seeing as far as the Epstein drops or anything like that, or as far as do you think that's more kind of just like the more conspiracy side of it?
Well, so first and foremost, I think like eating. I think cannibalism in general has been around forever, and it probably has not gone away. There's probably, to some degree, some potential truth or severity to those statements, at least with the consuming the flesh. Now, the adrenochrome stuff, 100%. I'm not like fully sure, because of course it's not like I've been invited into these things. I wouldn't go. But here's the thing about
you want to party on the island, bro?
Island boys.
Definitely not. Definitely. I'll go to another island. We'll get a fund going. Start a GoFundMe. We'll do another trip somewhere else. We'll show these elites how to really relax on the beach, and actually just relax on the beach.
Yeah.
Do some weird nefarious stuff. Okay, so long story short, in a child, okay, this is my philosophy. In a child, there's something called the thymus gland, all right, and within children, it's much larger than it is within adults. Okay, when we go through puberty, the thymus gland shrinks. The thymus sits next to the thyroid, basically. Just put it in your head that way. It's right in the throat, right up here. And so kids have much more of an activated neural channel between the brain and the heart, because their genital channel is not activated, obviously. Once the thymus begins to shrink, it leaks those hormonal chemicals into the bloodstream, causing the child to hit puberty and grow. And then that's when the genitals start to activate. That's the fall, because the chemicals here happen. That's the first fall that happens. That's why you got bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras. It's teenagehood, which is why we used to, this is the philosophy.
Is that why your balls drop?
Well, yeah, but it's also, this is the perversion of this, because keep in mind, we've only had laws protecting young women and young men,
right?
Of legal age for, like 100 or something like that years, 100 and some odd years. But 14 used to be a standard, and a lot of that was because the thought process was, when you hit puberty, the fall happens, adolescence starts, and your childhood dies. Okay, that was like a big. That's why it was like, you got to grow up, because 30's it. Once you hit 30, you're pretty much dead. That's probably not true for a lot of places, but it was kind of a fear. People didn't really know how long they were going to live comparatively to now. So, long story short, that's the same philosophy of what the elites use, right? So what they do is they weaponize esoteric information. They weaponize scripture. Like I'll give you a great example of how they weaponize scripture. There's many Christians who read the Bible. They see Book of Revelation. They see, oh, well, God wins in the end. That means I got to do nothing. I'll sit around and wait. And the atheists and the people in Hollywood will make that joke. But the Bible also says that faith with no works is lame, basically, right? So you have to put in the works, because if you want to see the outcome of the world that you expect to see, you got to live your best life, and you got to be active. That there's so many caveats to this, but what they do is it's weaponized incompetence. People don't really know these things, and they just believe whatever. And so they say, oh, well, Jesus is going to win in the end. God's going to win in the end. He's going to come down on a cloud. I'm going to do nothing. And that's weaponizing ignorance. And the same could be said about why we're even in this war to begin with. So you're talking about Epstein and all that stuff. I want to kind of take it with this entire narrative here. There's definitely some philosophy or some thought process that these people have a methodology where they believe if they do these types of harmful things, they get a benefit from it. Okay, which is just sick, right? So that's the whole point. We could talk about the details forever, but here's the reality. Here's actually a big secret. Okay, that not a lot of people know, and I'm going to actually express. I'm going to share it here. The everything is connected. Okay, everything is connected. You guys know this, but everything is connected through spiral mechanics. Okay, and it's connected through quantum physics, and it's connected through energy. All right, and I'm going to say this without keeping it mega complicated. In inner alchemy, one of the most important aspects of the alchemical process and cycle is oil. Christos, which is where we get the word Christ, means oil. Messiah comes from Mashiach, which means anointed one, you know, parentheses, the oil, right? Anointed with the oil. Baptism is that anointment. The anointment is the inner alchemical process, is one way of symbolically alliterating what Mashiach and all these other titles came from, because you know Yeshua was ultimately what people call him these days. You know, Jesus is more of the I don't know the name they gave him, right? Christ comes from Christos, and Christos is oil. What are we finding over in the Middle East right now?
Oil. Supposedly.
So, right, supposedly, but the Hormuz Strait is shut down. So at the very least, that is a thing, I guess, that is happening, right? So one of the big, like, I don't know if you want to call it a Freemasonic secret societies, etc., is that everything is so interconnected that you can map the body onto the world. Okay, you start with over towards Japan, where we start the time zone as the head.
Yeah.
You go all the way over to Hawaii, where the time zone ends, and that's the feet. And amongst the whole world, there's 12 tribes of Israel. There's really 12 subsets of groups. I can name them all, but I've named them all in my channels and stuff, so you guys can check that out. But there's really 12 subsets of major groups today that dominate the world. And it's possible that it was always like that at any given point in time, and it just shifted around or whatever. But the elites, or however you want to call it, the secret societies, they know this information. You can map the body going all the way from east to west, and right smack dab in the Middle East is where you have Israel. That's why that area is regarded as holy. Okay, so that's the first part. It's because Israel is essentially the solar plexus of the world. The solar plexus is ruled by the sign of Virgo. Virgo is opposite of the sign of Pisces. That's the age that we are just coming out of, going into the age of Aquarius, okay? Yeah. And Virgo, okay, is the largest constellation. And if you ask NASA, for example, whether you believe them or not, Virgo is, which is in the middle, that's the solar plexus. It's the very center of you, right? This is where the Christ seed is born. The inner child, the inner substance in alchemy is born from. It's the middle aspect of the body, okay? And the Virgo constellation is where we are situated in the universe. So if you have the entire universe as a cylinder, which they often show, if you look up like the advanced maps of the observable universe, it'll be a torus field, or it'll be a cylindrical shape. It's shaped like us, because the Bible says you're made in the image of God. So it's not just because the Bible says that. I'm just using that as like a brief explanation. It actually is quite literal. Look at Kabbalah. You want to look at Kabbalah. Aleph Mem Shin. It's very simple. Fire in the eyes, air is in the middle, water and earth is on the bottom. Okay. Stars, atmosphere, earth. Okay. Here's the fire of the brain. The lungs are in the middle, and then below that is the stomach in the body. Okay. So it's projected. You've got stars up here, then you've got the atmosphere, then you've got the water and the earth. All right. The middle strand of DNA is hydrogen bonds. Okay, air is always in the middle. Nose, this is where you breathe. Lungs, that's in the middle.
You're fucking blowing my mind right now.
So the whole point is that there's a set pathway to how things work. Look at a tree. Tree has leaves on the top that takes in the light. The trunk is what gives off oxygen. The roots are in the earth and take in the water. Okay, everything has a set matrix. There's a set balance to the entire world. If you understand Kabbalah, astrology, numerology, the Bible, if you understand all these matrices, then you'll start to crack the code, which is that all of it is connected to you biologically. The Kabbalah is you, the astrology is you, and the story of Christ going through the hero's journey is not only what we all experience, but it's also built within you.
Yes.
Take the heart, okay? Take the heart and pretend like you're spiraling inward in your central chest, okay? The heart acts as a head, and then you've got the diaphragm with the kidneys that look like little arms, and then you've got the sciatic nerves that run through the legs. It looks like a little person. If you zoom in and you cut you open, it looks like there's a little you inside of you, okay?
Oh, shit.
Everything spirals inward and everything spirals outward, all right? It's Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio, okay? It's the spin. When you're talking about the earth, the middle point, which is Israel, which is all this stuff, and they're fighting over oil, which is an exosomal lipid structure that forms in the central mass near the celiac ganglion of the body. Okay. This is like where the vibrational frequency starts. This is also where we feel. We don't feel up here. We feel in the solar plexus. That's where you get your butterflies in your stomach. That's where you get your gut feelings. Then you want to talk about hierarchy and how that's built into your body. You've got God on the top, you've got the mother as the heart, and then you've got the gut as the reflection, because there's a gut brain axis.
So when
Okay?
so when
the
you
gut and the brain
say
are interconnected. So basically there's a lot of stuff that I'm getting at here, but what I'm saying is gut brain axis, Virgo supercluster, Virgo, we're in the center. Okay. There's a lot that's kind of goes into this. So as I'm saying, I know this is confusing. Basically from east to west, the whole earth is a body. From top down, you can map the body onto planet Earth. That middle section is the same as above, so below. What's in the middle of the brain? The thalamus. What's in the thalamus? The pineal and the pituitary. What are we looking at in the night sky? Orion's belt, the girdle of Mary, the asteroid belt, belts and midsections and middle parts, the navel. These are all always very important spiritually. It's a hidden secret. So the whole point I'm getting at is there's interconnection between pretty much everything. It goes that deep. And what these elites are doing is that they are bastardizing it, they're flipping it, they're perverting it on purpose, literalizing it on purpose, in order to basically pervert the truth. And they want everybody, I'm telling you guys right now, they want everybody to look outside of themselves. They want people to look up at the sky. They want people to do all this stuff. They want everybody to have a screwed up life, because if your soul is not like perfectly in balance and harmony as best as you can on a day-to-day basis, that is where they're taking the power away from you.
And not only that, but also when you are in that state of, I'm not going to say perfection, but maybe of that state of balance, you're much easier to not only transmute your state of mind, but also, manifest the reality that you see around you that you'd prefer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's the armor of God, essentially. You want to talk about raising your frequency, raising your vibration, Christ consciousness, all those types of things. You're talking about the inner alignment. And there's and this is why so many, spiritualities are ritualized. There's a very set specific way that you have to go about living your life in order to achieve this perfect balance within you for this process to activate. And again, I'm not telling you you're going to get magic powers. What I'm telling you is you're going to live a better life. That's what's more important.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. I wish I was Spider-Man. Maybe you will get magic powers, because I don't necessarily think I look 32. A lot of people, if I go out and I get a beer or something, people card me. I still look like a kid.
Same.
And I'm 32 years old. I've been doing this for like 8 years. Okay, so this is a way to prolong your life, proliferate stem cells, reverse aging. This is a very large. You want to talk about kind of like an Olympian, a way of like kind of personifying like the ultimate man, or ultimate woman to some regard. This is like the Ubermensch, I guess you could say. The alchemical process. Maybe Ubermensch was bad example, but the alchemical process is essentially the pathway that, if you study history, all of these cultures were really obsessed with these ideas. The Greeks were obsessed with these ideas. The Chinese were obsessed with these ideas. The Japanese, it goes very deep. And so what they've done is they've hid these truths. They remove the fact that the earth is basically a living thing. It's got we're Aries to Pisces, top to bottom. It's got Aries to Pisces. It's got a chakra system. We call them ley lines, right? We call on the earth, there's ley lines. Energetic points like Egypt or Peru, where the energy is maximized compared to other points. That's just like the nervous system, because not all the nerves are the same. Some of them are chakras and some of them are not. Wow. So what they've done is they've masked this. This is the veil of Isis, or the veil of the mother being lifted, right? This is like the torn tabernacle, I guess you could say, because this is the expose. Everything is connected. You are the stars, you're the earth, it's all built within you, and you yourself are your own universe. And if you want proof of that, look at your gut microbiome. Remember what I said. Virgo, solar plexus. Virgo rules the gut. Virgo rules people. We are the people. Okay, so Virgo rules the gut, which is the gut microbiome. Gut microbiome is like a third of you, and it's cells that are not your cells, but are connected into your body. It's just like people. You are a cell walking around on a living thing doing the same thing that your cells in your body do. Mitochondria of the cell, which you powerhouse of the cell, we all got that, right? Mitochondria is basically very, very similar to the digestive system within a cell as it is within our body. And mitochondria, by the way, they're like little alchemizers. They can alchemize. They have been seen to do this, where they can take certain chemicals and just completely ionically shift them into other chemicals that we need. This is why we can do so much working off of so little. And there's a lot of science that's still coming out about that. But the mitochondria is essentially like that same exact quotient. It's us. So your mitochondria is an alchemizer. Christ was the greatest alchemist that ever existed in most regard. And the gut is in your body. What is your alchemist I guess furnace, right? Because they always show the furnace and there's crowns on the top and all the artwork, because it's you, because you are made in the image. That's the whole point. There's a divine set of natural proponents here. So you are what you eat, so make sure you eat good.
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah.
And also they're fighting over the oil. They're fighting over, I mean, now they're saying, you know, Christ is going to return. Some people speculate that there's a Jewish Messiah that they're trying to bring back. There's like a lot of stuff going on right now. Because
they're like they got
sacrificing red heifers
that,
the other year.
They got Netanyahu trying to say that he's gonna bring back the Messiah.
They're trying to say he's dead
and
right
then
now.
You got all the government telling the troops that they're fighting a holy war and stuff like that. So you got like the Christian Zionists that are like trying to root for the war too, because the Judaism
in the name
Jews,
of religion.
Yeah, the Jews and the Christians both think that this war is going to bring on the end time, so they're basically trying to
and the Muslims
kickstart the
are
apocalypse
pretty
and
much
all that
there
stuff.
too.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I mean, it's like I said, the Abrahamic religions are going through some form of evolution. Now, our key point here is to ensure that we are taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, that was
right?
gonna be
Because,
on my last question before we drive home, because I know we gotta let you go soon. I think we're hitting the time limit right now.
Oh no,
So,
I got some time. It's fine.
So after everything that we've kind of discussed and whatnot, that was kind of going to be my end point to ask you, was to, with all this craziness in the world and stuff like that, because rest in peace, Optimistic Banks, but we brought him on and he said, as within, so without, the whole external world and reality that you see around you is a result of something inside you. Even something as crazy as a war in the Middle East is something that we are dealing with inside of us. So my question to you was going to be, like, through all this craziness, the war in the Middle East, the Epstein files, the government trying to control us and turn this into a surveillance state, technocracy and all that kind of stuff, like, what would be your general advice to the average Joe to try to keep an inner balance and try to find an inner peace within all the chaos? What would be your general advice to the average person?
Great question. So first and foremost, you got to stay grounded. Okay. I think what's really, really important is that we can't start a spiritual movement of sorts where people are saying they're awakening, but they've got so many aspects of their life so unbalanced, and yet everybody wants to be an expert at the same time, right? My whole paradigm is, I don't care if I'm right, I want the truth. So first and foremost, the truth has to be, above all things. You're going to be wrong, and it's okay to be wrong, and it's not, I see people get carried away by the visions they have. I see people do this, do that. People sit outside with binoculars waiting all night for years for aliens to touch the earth. Get everything in your life down pat, because when your universe is fully balanced and you've got everything in, then you have all the time in the world to go and go down the rabbit holes and stuff. But I will tell you, so much of this stuff has a dark history attached to it, no matter what kind of rabbit hole. If you go down, you want to go down aliens, you want to go down CIA, you want to go down this MK Ultra, whatever, energy, even energy mechanics. You find out all the dark stuff, like how they arrested a lot of those guys, threw them in jail and just let them die, and they stole all their technology, so the whole point is not to get carried away in anything that does not serve you. Okay. If you start getting carried away with things that are not good for your life, ultimately you're playing into the hands of what these people want. They want you to talk about them because your word of mouth is power. They want to be your central focus. They want you to be looking for every little conspiracy on Twitter that pops up, and half of them don't really even ever amount to anything. So the point is,
they're just jacking your loosh.
Right. You're just jacking the loosh. So make sure that you keep and protect your energy. That has to be the number one priority, because I'm guaranteeing you there's going to be false prophets. There's going to be people who screech from the heavens tops that they've got it all. And really, it's a government psyop where they plant some guy to tell you all the events they already plan on doing.
Yeah.
They make some guy look like a paragon. Everybody follows him. And then we all jump off a cliff like lemmings. That's a bad analogy, because I don't think they actually do that. I think that was just that one Disney movie. But that's what I'm talking about. See, they made us think that lemmings kill themselves. And that's not what they do. So we like already from the start, you got to start questioning stuff. Yeah. But you can't question stuff so much where you start losing your mind. You've got bills to pay. You've got food to eat. You know, you've got to make sure that the basics, the foundation is good. Then the second thing is you have to play into your faith. I don't care what it is. Yeah. But, you know, for me, I like Christianity and every other thing under the sun. But as you can see, when I'm talking about Christianity, it's not what traditional Christians talk about. I'm talking.
Oh no, we lost him. What's he talking about? Oh, hold on. Okay, you broke up 1 second.
Oh yeah, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. So when you're talking about Christianity, you're talking about what you said?
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean the inner alchemical aspect.
Yeah.
Consciousness aspect, elevating. Because here's the ultimate truth. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter what the big conspiracy is. Oh, my lights just shifted, so it got more dramatic. That's
it looked tight. Yeah, it looked dope.
It doesn't matter what the big conspiracy is. Okay, the reality is keeping your frequency low is what they want. Yeah, that's it. And they will. It does. They don't care about the narrative. They don't care if Jesus Christ comes back. They don't care if a Messiah comes back. What they care about is after the dust settles, they're still in control. Yeah. That's all they care about. They'll suck up to you. They could say that the Monkey King from China is coming down from the heavens and he's going to come rule the world or some shit. But the reality, Project Bluebeam, whatever it is, aliens, we've all got to do one world government, blah, blah, blah. They want the narrative. They have access to all the stuff we're talking about. They have eyes everywhere. Big Brother's watching. He's watching this right now.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, government.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, right. So
send me some money.
So the yeah, right. So the whole point is they want you to lower your frequency. They want you to be worried about you losing your job and not paying your bills. They want you to worry about the garbage slop that they feed you in all the lines. They want you worried about everything. Your role and your job is to elevate yourself to a point of balance, self-love, and mental stability, so that your nervous system is aligned, so that you're wearing the armor of God and your frequency is high, nothing bothers you, and you can go out into the world and share your light. Yes. That is the key secret. That is what they all don't want you to know. None of the other stuff, I promise you, all the other stuff can be important, but it's going to be different from me to these guys to everybody watching at home. But the hierarchy is get your shit together. That is the ultimate hierarchy.
Let's go.
Because if you can do that, and then we're all living our best lives, we can easily
living my best life.
That's right. Yeah. We can easily push past this dark time. But if we're not all living our best lives and we're getting screwed up and we're doing this and then we're partying and we're waiting on God to come down and save us, like, don't look outside.
No one's gonna come save you. You gotta save yourself, everybody.
That's pretty much the key. Yes. So and that is, again, there's so much complexity to this, but it's within that complexity that these guys have become lost and they have perverted the teachings when it's actually very simple. And we all know it. We all know it can be very simple, and we are the ones that overcomplicate it. Yeah. Right. So we have to make it simple, and we have to make it positive and happy. And I'm not trying to be love and light. Like, I'm not trying to cop out. It's hard. Yeah. It takes a lot of work and dedication. It's not just like, my healing journey. Like, we've got to grow up a little bit. Yeah, it's a great healing journey. It's also a pain in the ass, and a lot of people struggle through it. But if we can be honest and critical without losing the ability to be kind with each other, without losing compassion, with gaining empathy while also being critical enough to be able to say, I don't need to worry about this. I don't need to worry about this. I need to focus on this and how I'm promoting good spiritual faith out into the world.
Yes, sir.
How am I getting into society? How am I giving back to the people? How are we collectively? Because you and me, we can't do this on our own. We've got a cabal that we've got to like throw out.
We got to lead by example, bro.
World almost.
Yeah.
All right, we've got to lead by example.
That's why we do the
show. Go arm in arm.
Yes,
yeah,
sir, yes,
we've got to go arm in arm. And here's the thing. I'm just going to warn you. I want to warn all the listeners. There's going to be liars. There's going to be cheaters. There's going to be false prophets. There's going to be manipulators. There's going to be assholes. It is the truth. There's no getting away from it. There's going to be a lot of them. We have to be critical about what we're consuming, how we're consuming it, and how we're moving forward, because we can't lose faith in ourselves. That's what they want. They want you to think you're powerless to this. They want you to think, I've got no power to stop these people. That's why they just keep hammering.
Well, they did it from the textbooks, science. They did it with religion. They did this where exactly, you said it earlier, where they externalized everything and they made you forget that there is an internal thing. So they made you forget that there is an internal system that's connected to you that interfaces with reality. And they just want you to think that physicality is all there is. And that's why science is so lost right now. And that's why when they're pushing quantum physics and they're seeing that all these things that they're discovering, and the Higgs boson particle and the ether and all this kind of stuff, and the unified field and all that, they're starting to realize that these have already been talked about in philosophical teachings that have been passed down through secret societies, the Vedas and Hinduism. They all speak about quantum physics and stuff like that. So I did want to ask you before we signed off, do you kind of have like a beginners program or anything like that for people that kind of want to get into this kind of stuff?
So I've got an online university that people can check out, Psycosmos University. It's on School. You can come check that out. I also do one-on-one coaching. I also have an app that I built, and it tracks your inner alchemy cycles for you. Breaks down your chart, gives you a bunch of information about you. So there's multiple ways. I've got books. I've got courses on Udemy. There's many, many ways. And now is a really great time to get educated. If I probably said some things that were quite confusing, and that's totally fine. Yeah. But what I will say is this goes a lot deeper. And my unfortunate truth is I feel like a lot of people are missing so many key puzzle pieces. That doesn't mean I'm right about everything, okay? It doesn't mean that I think I've cracked the codes and stuff. But what I will tell you is that my system, when applied, legitimately changes people's lives. And I've got the scientific data to prove that.
Well, you found a way, and you want to help. You want to show other people a way. And what you're saying is, I think, is it's not the only way, but from what I'm understanding, especially with the success you've had and the things you've been doing, it's a very successful system that you've developed. Yeah. You've done a bunch of research. You're always doing more research. That's what I love about you and your channel. So go ahead and check that out, guys. If you guys are interested in inner alchemy, if you're interested in self-improvement, through esoteric concepts, if you're interested in learning about systems like these, if you're interested in learning about alchemy, maybe Freemasonry, stuff that the esoteric concepts, Christian mysticism and stuff like that, Psycosmos University is a great way, is a great place to find that. It's a great place to start. Like he said, he has beginner programs and stuff like that. And just let them know a little bit about where they can find you, or if you want to say what the website is or anything like that.
So you can go to teampsycosmos.org, or you can really go to my link tree, which has all of my socials and everything else. Cool. I'm also on my YouTube channel and my other social medias like TikTok and stuff. I plan on posting a video on Easter, so that would be like April 5th of this year. And essentially what that video is going to be is me showing visually what I'm basically trying to say in this podcast, but connecting all of the dots in a lot of detail. Okay, so it's going to be much more detailed than this conversation, but that's actually what I'm building up towards, because I think that if I can make that video go viral, then I think it's going to change the trajectory of how people are seeing this. Like I mentioned, there's a reason why there are specific events that are happening right now. There's a narrative at play that's trying to enforce prophecy. Okay. And, and again, it's up to you to be on top of your own self so that you can raise that consciousness, not forcing it, but doing it properly. That is ultimately going to change the world. We know that from the science, quantum physically speaking, you change a small subset and it changes the whole. And I know that we can do it. We only need 100 million people to get on a really good frequency, and that's 1% of the world. And it sounds like a lot, and it is, but if you get 100 million people to have a harmonious frequency of living their best lives, that can really dramatically change the world.
Yeah.
So
I
that's my goal.
I think we're pretty close to it. You know what I mean? It may just be my algorithm, but I am seeing more and more people every day that are into not only, tarot, astrology, mysticism, or what have you, what may be it, but I'm also just seeing people that are just genuinely just trying to just be better people. You know what I mean? Even if they're not into the mysticism or, the self-improvement.
No, there's a lot of those like give backs. You know what I mean? Give out to the less fortunate. Whether it's recorded or not, I don't care because you're still helping somebody.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing a lot more of that. So Dr. Matt from Psychosmos University, thank you so much again for coming on. We talked inner alchemy. We talked dark magic versus light magic. We went down some rabbit holes. So thanks again for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say to the listeners before we sign off?
I love all of you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you guys. I'm looking forward to the next one. Hopefully next time we can get some comments, or we'll go down some deeper rabbit holes as well. I don't mind coming back and getting deep into the processes within the body, whatever you guys want to talk about. So I always love coming on here. So thank you guys for having me once again. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. We'll get that scheduled sometime soon in the future. We love you, brother. We love you guys, outsiders. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in to another episode of the Outside Minds podcast. I'm your host and creator, Stilo Free. This is the other host and creator,
Doubt 420.
and we out.
Peace.